Gather round now, friends, and listen to the history of our great lands lost to the mists of time. Once there was, and once there wasn't, in the long distant days of yore, when haystacks went on sieves, when genies played Jareed in the old bathhouse, when camels were town criers, when fleas were barbers, and when I'd gently rock my sleeping baby grandmother to sleep, there was a mighty and powerful griffin that went by the name of Og. And Og flew straight into the great Khan of Artemisia's court and said, "Great Khan, I approach you, for I have decided the lands of Artemisia are where I will make my home, where I will settle in my den. For I have traveled from Drakenbald to the Far East, to Kalantir, to Antir. And you see, your warriors are the bravest, your laurels the wisest, and your pelicans the most dedicated." And the great Khan said, "It is lovely to have you. We would love to have you, in fact. Come, join us in our great citadel of the Loch Solin. There you may face off against the treacherous and monstrous brine shrimp." And so Og went and flew down to Loch Solin. But there was a problem. You see, Loch Solin was beautiful, with the great salt lake and the fearsome brine shrimp to face. But there was a problem. The towers, they rose high into the sky, and poor Og had nowhere to fly. And so she approached, a week later, the great Khan. "Great and mighty Khan, I appreciate your hospitality, but the towers of the Salt Lake, of Loch Solin itself, are no place for a griffin." So the Khan thought, and he said, "Ah, I know. The open lands of Arnhold. You shall go there, and you shall live in peace." And so she went. But less than 3 days later, the Baron himself of Arnhold rushed in. "Your Majesty, I cannot stand it any longer. All day, all night, all afternoon, breakfast, lunch, dinner, no rest. Og, the mighty griffin, fights the battle moose of Arnhold. There's no rest. There's no peace. My people cannot work. She destroys the farms, and the moose destroys the homes. What are we supposed to do?" And so the great Khan, in his wisdom, thought, and he said, "Ah, I know. I'll send you to Bronzehelm, Og." So Og went to Bronzehelm for a few days. You see, battered and bandaged, Og came back to the Khan in his mighty palace. "I cannot fly in Bronzehelm. It is worse than Loch Solin. They shine and they polish their helmets until they gleam like the sun itself. And I fly over and I am blinded and I crash." And so the great Khan thought to himself, "No, that won't do. The heart of our kingdom, Thousand Eyes. That's where I will send you." And so she went and studied with the laurels of Thousand Eyes. But it only took a couple of days before she returned. "Great and mighty Khan, I do not mean to reject your hospitality again. However, everywhere I look, there's eyes over here and over here. When I eat, when I sleep, when I study, when I fight, I'm watched by the many-eyed bird. There's thousands of them everywhere. I cannot live like this, great Khan." The Khan thought to himself, "Sentinel's Keep. That's where I will send you, mighty Og." And so she went to Sentinel's Keep. But within a few days, the laurels of Sentinel's Keep approached the king and said, "Mighty Khan, in your infinite wisdom you have sent us Og. But with her infinite curiosity, we can do no work. Every day, our warriors, our laurels, our pelicans are disturbed. They cannot train, they cannot study, they cannot work in their diligence. Og needs to know what we keep, what the sentinels guard. We have no way of explaining to the griffin that there is nothing we keep. It's just a name." And so the king thought, and he thought, and the mighty Khan realized, "I have one last place I can send you, Og. It is a small village, but growing. I will send you just north, above the Salt Lake, above Loch Solin, and you shall live there. It is the last place I can send you, though, Og." So Og went. And a day passed, and there was no word. And then 2, and then 3, and then a week, and then another week, and then a month. And Og and the Baroness herself arrived back in his kingdom, in his palace, and said, "This is where I shall make my lair, and from here on out it shall be known as Gryphons Lair, for this is where Og's den shall be. And I will live there, and I will train with their warriors, and I will fight, and I will study, and I will serve the Baroness and the kingdom." The Khan was ecstatic. "What sold you on Gryphons Lair? Why that one above any of our other great lands?" Og kind of tilted her head and said, "Mighty Khan, you have great warriors, great laurels, students and studies everywhere in your lands. But the bards of Gryphons Lair, their music, their stories, their magic, that is what sold me. And so I shall live in these lands, above them in the mountain, and perform with them and fight and study." And so it was. And so it possibly still is. For you see, friends, Og has not been seen in a great while, to the point only those who were there even remember her. Some say she moved on to other great adventures, maybe down south, maybe over in Callantir, maybe back to Drakkenbald. Nobody really knows. But I believe that Og still lives up there, in her mountains, waiting for whenever the barony or the kingdom calls upon her once again. She will answer, friends. She will answer.